Hi, this video is in our Great Engine Attack series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and together we're going to go through a fantastic attack in a game by two lesser-known engines, rofChade and Combusken. When Combusken reacts a little sleepily to rofChade's queenside bind, it lands into a very precarious position with rofChade's rook's pawn, queen and light squared bishop tearing black's kingside apart. In this video, white 1d4 players can find a model game for attacks with an early g4 thrust. And an early g4, it's a pretty common stratagem in modern chess. There's even been a fantastic book by GM Kryakvin written about it. But there are also very important general lessons about, I think, good opening play and also about defense in this game. It's a very, very nice game indeed. So we join the position after move 13 bishop d2, and this is a semi-Slav, and white has played the sharp opening move g4, which was popularized by Alexei Shirov. Now, black's reaction to the move g4 was to play d takes c4, so conceding, or rather giving up its foothold in the centre in order to free the d5 square for the knight after white goes g4 to g5. And the way things have developed, white's got kind of a bind on the dark squares on the queen side and on the centre as well. And it's very important because if you manage to stop this c6 pawn in particular from advancing, then the bishop on b7 will be a very passive piece. The thing is, however, is that white's bind is quite fragile, and the reason for that is the advance of the g-pawn. The advance of the g-pawn has really weakened the central and kingside light squares. There's no pawn on g2 defending the knight on f3, so that really makes it more possible to consider pawn sacrifices just to open up the line of the diagonal and, activate the bishop and start hitting those weakened central and kingside light squares. This is a really crucial position, and it strikes me that the strongest engines, they're very, very clued up about when the moment is in the opening to really take action and really make something happen. And it's the weaker engines that don't always notice these points. And I ran a number of engine matches with Stockfish and Revenge, and both engines understood this very well in this position, and they both had their ideas for how to start creating something in this position, how to start getting the counterplay rolling. So Queen c7 was Combusken's rather routine choice, trying to get in c6 to c5. I'll just show you what Revenge and what Stockfish did. Revenge played a5, h4, and then c5. Just sacrificing a pawn and just opening up that a8, h1 diagonal. After knight takes c5, queen c7, rook c1, rook c8, b4. Revenge played a very interesting move, knight b6. White is pretty solid, this is really a pawn sacrifice that's a little bit on the fraught side. On the other hand, white's got an awful lot of territory to cover, and there are an awful lot of squares open within white's position. And this knight b6 move's a very nice one. It's threatening to come into c4. It'll attack the a3 pawn. It's also opening up the line of the bishop towards the knight on f3. And in the game, the tactics got quite intricate here. But here, bishop takes c4, we've got queen takes f3, so castles, bishop takes a5, Revenge didn't want to retreat, just wanted to keep on going. Very intricate tactics. This is a nice move. Threatening bishop takes c4 and also bishop f3, skewering the queen and rook. The tactics carried on, but black had a good pass c-pawn and also some ideas of attacking this exposed kingside as well. And Revenge managed to keep the balance in this game. But I thought that showed very good understanding, just to play c5 straight away, make something happen before white gets the bind. What Stockfish did was equally interesting. After bishop d2, it played a5, and after h4, it played the move b4. And this is a completely different approach in actual fact. So knight c5 was played, so that looks a little bit awkward. White's really blockaded this pawn on c6 now, and the bishop on b7 is passive. But Stockfish has opened up the a6 f1 diagonal. So it played b takes a3, b takes a3, f5, just to really cement that knight on d5, not let white drive it away with e4. And after h5 from revenge, it plays bishop a6, takes and takes. And white has blockaded the pawn on c6, but since the light square bishop has been exchanged, that doesn't really matter. And this is quite an interesting, very unclear, probably about even position. But I think it really illustrates, the idea of understanding when you're reaching a critical position in the opening, and really understanding whether you should take drastic action, and then working out how to do it. And two completely different ways here, both of them very, very interesting. I think I like Stockfish's idea even more, because that seems to keep a lot of winning chances as well in the position. Whereas I think Revenge's choice was more about lots of activity in order to liquidate in the end. But Combusken played queen c7, knight c5 was played, and there we are. We've got this block on the c6 pawn, but black hasn't even started to prepare bishop a6 now. So here Stockfish and Revenge both wanted to play the move f5. Again, try and cement this knight on d5, and after g takes f6, rook f6, we've got some extra counterplay on the f file. It's a little bit ropey for black, and Revenge didn't manage to keep Stockfish at bay in this position, but it felt like the right spirit basically. e5 was played by Combusken, and this is really risky, because now white really starts teeing up on the king side with g6 and h4. To be honest, this looks like a real clear advantage winning for white, I'd almost say. It seems that I guess with superhuman play and superhuman defense, you can still hold this position, which is surprises me enormously. But in principle, black's in big trouble now. So Combusken played bishop c8, h5 and bishop g4, and this is a very interesting moment, because white's teeing up with the bishop and the queen and the h pawn on g6. So you'd sort of say, well, shouldn't you be sort of doing something like trying to protect it? But what Combusken is doing is it's a form of defense that we've seen very often in Stockfish's game, and we talk about it a lot in Game Changer, and also in my new book, Silicon Road to Chess Improvement. Essentially what black does to defend, black captures white's pieces and hits white's attacking pieces as white attacks. And you just hope that by taking pieces, you're going to remove the attacking force that white needs in order to deliver mate. And by knocking white's pieces from their attacking squares, well, you hope to make them less effective. But it's a race basically, and the unfortunate thing for black, of course, is that its king is caught in the middle, so that's not totally positive. So h takes g6 played, bishop f3, rook takes h7, bishop takes g5, and now a very nice move from white, not obvious, bishop e4. The idea of this move is, simply to get rid of this bishop on f3, which is restricting the white king. If this bishop moves, then the white king can castle, you can bring a rook into play, and, that's going to be very, very dangerous, of course. It also, stops black from ever looking at ideas like e4, just trying to block this b1 h7 diagonal. I think it's worth probably talking about this white attacking setup. White's a piece down, but black's got it's quite an unusual setup. I haven't really seen it quite like this before. This rook on h7, pawn on g6, in a way, these guys are in the way. I just want to bring a queen to h7 really, but they exert a very unusual amount of pressure on the black king, because the f-pawn can't move. I mean, it's pinned along the second rank by the rook on h7, and the rook can't move away either from the defence of f7, because then there's gf, which, well, is going to be very, very dangerous. So there's a real sense in which, both sides are keeping themselves in balance, and the black king is caught in the middle there. The key thing is, can white bring really anything major onto the h file? If that happens, then chances are it's going to be very, very fraught for black. Combusken played bishop e4, which wasn't the move that it spent a lot of time on. It was looking an awful lot at bishop g4. And here there's an amazing move to refute that, and it's the move f4. And it's an amazing move. It's got all sorts of points, but essentially the idea is that black, what on earth can you do? How are you going to sort out your pieces? If e takes f4, then I play bishop takes d5, and then I go bishop c3. And this is absolutely appalling for black. The big problem, of course, you can't block with f6 because rook takes c7 is winning. So that's the basic idea, and finding other moves for black is not easy. So Stockfish's main line, if you just let it run and run to analyse. And actually, this was also a game of Stockfish against Revenge as well. That's queen e7, g7, rook e8 and bishop takes d5, and the idea is c takes d5, I go rook h8 check, and isn't it useful that I played this pawn to f4, I go f takes g5, and the attack continues. So e4 was played by Revenge against Stockfish, but then we just play something very simple actually, takes, and then rook h8 and rook takes a8, and well, that's a very big advantage for white, which Stockfish converted very easily. So it looks like bishop g4, f4, wow, is just winning for white, and it's really part of it is just that what does black do? What has black got? And it's just very hard to find moves for black. So what Combusken did was bishop e4, queen takes e4, and then knight f6, which amazingly holds everything together. You wouldn't think it possible, but if I go g takes f7, then rook f7, queen g6, rook g7 is the key move. Easy to miss somehow, or I missed this first of all. Just defends absolutely everything, and rook takes g7, queen g7. Black's just a piece up. But yeah, rofChade plays a beautiful move. I mean, I'm sure if you've read your Game Changer, you know about the move queen h1 from AlphaZero. This is another very nice queen h1 move. The amazing thing is that you're still not quite close to mate with white. Somehow rook h8, I go king g7. If gf, I just take on f7. It's just really hard to deliver any mates, and black can even play the move rook fd8 and still no mate. The point of it is that g takes f7, I just go king f8, and you don't have a clear follow-up. I mean, what white really needs to involve some more pieces in the attack. Queen, rook, and a pawn on g6 just isn't enough. So bishop c3 is played. And you are teeing up for stuff like f4, for example. That's going to come in next. So black counterattacks with queen d7. And the idea is that if we play stuff like f4, then queen d3 is going to be a very powerful counterattack. And, well, black's trying to bring the queen closer, maybe to e6, and, yeah, essentially just also try and stop white from castling queenside and get the rook on a1 into play. But, yeah, there's an incredible idea here as well. It's just, play happening all over the board. Bishop a5. So white's just trying to knock away the rook from d8. And if it moves, I'll get rook d1, I get my rook active, curtains. If this rook gets into play, that's going to be way too much firepower for white to deal with. And here, Combusken made the decisive mistake, and it's a really interesting one, actually. I mean, I talked a lot in the Silicon Road to Chess Improvement about attacking rhythm. And that's simply that these wonderful engines, they have this fantastic sense of how quick an attack actually is and how much time they can take. And that also applies to defense as well. How quick is the attack? Can I make consolidating moves? And that enables these engines to find quite amazing resources. Quiet moves in the middle of raging attacks, or quiet defenses when you think, my god, you should be panicking, you should be doing something now. And Combusken actually panics here with b4. And what is the idea of b4? The idea of b4 is that black is trying to hurry white to take on d8. And is doing that by playing b4, which cuts the communication between the bishop on a5 and the d2 square, so queen d2 check is threatened. The problem is with this is that we get this forcing sequence, gf here, rook h8, king f7, rook takes, takes. White's got 2 pawns for the knight and bishop. The knight and bishop are not fantastically placed. And the whole black queenside is collapsing here after b takes a3, rook a3. Yeah, the rook's got active. It's coming into a7 and, well, the king's going to be in danger. So really, black's forced white to do this. But what black needs in order to survive, which would be a compact queenside, has been completely self-destroyed. And that's why what the stockfish suggest, and this is analysing on move 16 already, so it's not just now, it's way in advance. It suggests the move a6. And what is this move based on? The move is based on essentially on the fact that white does not have a really easy way to bring another piece into the attack, this rook on a1. I mean, king e2, I've got queen d3 check. You can't castle queenside. So there's no real way to do that. So white is going to be forced to take on d8 straight away, whatever you do. And after rook takes d8, gf, king f8, rook h8 check, king takes f7, takes, queen c6. We've got again 2 rook and 2 pawns for the knight and bishop, but the queen side is together, so black can actually play the move queen d5, takes, and force the exchange of queens. So yeah, I mean, what is this position? I mean, white's got rook and 2 pawns for knight and bishop, and quite a few targets to attack, like a6, for example. However, after e4, knight c7, rook d1, king e6, there. Black is keeping everything together. Somehow that knight on c7 is excellent, protecting the pawn on a6. And yeah, I mean, it's the black pawn structure is not really compact, but it's compact enough to be defended by the black pieces within a small area. And yeah, I mean, black manages to draw all of these all of these positions. I'm not 100% convinced I'd draw this as a human player as black. I think there's quite a few pitfalls. I think that the engines just avoid that. I'm sure I might fall into if I was defending it myself. But this is in principle defensible, which means that black's position was not lost from move 16 onwards. But yeah, I mean, it's right on the limit, and I always feel with these things that it's also a question of pot luck, really. One of these might turn out to be losing, or it might turn out just to be drawn, but it's obviously a huge advantage for white. But after b4, as we saw, takes, queen takes c6, queen d3 was played, a takes b4, and hey presto, the rook on a1 is going to get active to a7, and we're taking pawns at the same time. So black does have some activity here. But yeah, I mean, white's, those black pieces aren't really coordinating. You'd want this bishop over here giving a check, but if the queen takes the pawn, the king just escapes, and it's got the queen to protect here. So very difficult here. And some good old superhuman engine stuff came to the rescue here, and this was very nice in actual fact. Why you've run around the houses like this, nobody knows. But in the end, you end up on b1, and simply the king is safe from checks, the queen is magnificent on f5, and the black king is just caught in the middle. And, it was another 30 moves before rofChade won it, but the result was never for a single second in doubt. So there we are. I mean, I hope you enjoyed that game. I thought it was a stunning attack with some gorgeous tactical ideas. I also thought that, you know, this moment in the opening was extremely instructive. Really, because I've actually I've been commentating a lot on the British Championship, and well, there were some matchups between some stronger players and weaker players in the early rounds, and I saw one example that reminded me so much of this in actual fact, where, you know, black didn't appreciate that the critical moment had arrived, played passively and just lost very, very convincingly and very easily, whereas you know, a violent c5 break would have really made the difference. So I think it's a very common thing that people get wrong, and I think this is a really good example of it. And I also think this this concept about attacking rhythm, I don't think that that it's a particularly well-known concept, but you come across it all over the place with engine attacks. We saw it in Stockfish Winter yesterday with these quiet bishop moves, you know, that in the middle of an attack, simply Stockfish knowing that it had time to finish off its attack, and you see it here as well with this time from the defensive point of view, this idea that you've got time to play a6 whilst you're getting, you know, whilst a rook and a pawn and a queen are at your king's throat, you've got time just to consolidate your queenside and prepare for the situation after the liquidation. Really advanced concepts. If you master those, then I think your defensive skills increase, and also your attacking skills as well increase about 100 elo points. It's a really great concept, and as I said, not very well known outside the engine world, I think. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that. If you enjoyed the video, why not give me a like? If you're enjoying the channel, then please subscribe. Because yeah, there's just lots and lots of stuff coming, loads of fantastic engine competitions, the TCEC Swiss at the moment, Chess 960 is coming as well, which is always a huge party. So and engines are getting simply more and more amazing, you know, with every competition. So do keep in touch, do subscribe, but otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and hopefully see you for the next video.